Aloha and welcome to Knitted Paradise, where the needles are clicking and the yarn is squishy. My name is Lucia, and you can find me online as Pearl of the Pacific. Today is Sunday, December 13th, and this is episode 101, in which I will share a little bit about how I size socks for other people. Because a lot of people have asked me about that, so I thought I would share about that later on in the Flora and Fauna section. I'm not going to start with that. So let's get going. Below the conch shell, I have a few announcements. One is that I talked a few episodes, maybe it was a lot of episodes ago, about a de-stash I was doing, and I finally got around to taking pictures of all the yarn that I'm de-stashing and posting it in the de-stash thread in the Ravelry group, as well as on my will trade or sell page in my stash. So feel free to take a look at either of those. And if you're interested in any of them, either you can reply to that post in the thread. They're all in separate posts so that you can reply to them. Or you could PM me and say, hey, I want this. And we'll negotiate. Most of the prices are there. Some of them are like plus shipping, because I don't know how much shipping will be. The ones that do include shipping, if they're international, obviously I'm going to have to charge a little bit more. But other than that, I think the prices are all there. So take a look if you're interested. The other thing is that I was wondering if anyone's interested in donating prizes for upcoming knit-alongs, or craft-alongs really, because I always include all sorts of fibery crafts. I love doing knit-alongs and I love offering prizes, but I can't afford to offer prizes all the time. It does get expensive after a while. So if you have something that you would like to donate, either patterns or stitch markers or yarn or bags or anything that is, yarny related, let me know. That would be awesome. The other thing is that I was talking with a friend yesterday, and she was asking if anyone might be interested in doing a sock yarn swap for the holidays. It doesn't have to be holiday themed yarn. You don't have to get it out by Christmas. It would be a very informal thing. But if you're interested, let me know, and maybe as people come in, I'll partner you up, and you'll know who you're swapping with, and you'll be sending it to the person who will be sending it to you, so it will be a true swap. I'm not going to do, it's the last swap I did for my first Potiversary was really, it wasn't super complicated because there were a ton of people, but it still got, it's a little stressful at times. So I thought this could be a really informal thing. I'll just pair people up. You can talk to each other, figure out what kind of things you want to include. Sock yarn is always great, so we thought we would start with that, and then if you can decide how much or how little you want to send. So yeah, that's the only announcements. The other announcement is that I am in the bird room. I have taken the bird out of the cage, so she is in the room. I think she's up there at the moment. I've locked the door so the cat can't get in. He is staring through the doorway very intently because it's a glass door. So we'll see how it goes. But she's quieter when she's not in the cage, so I thought we'll just get her out, and so you might hear her flying around. But she's not as squawky when out of the cage, so we're going to see how this goes. All right, on the island, I have some things. Let's start with the one that's closest to me. They're not that far. They're on the chair right there. Is the Dew Shawl by Monska that I started a while ago and then ran out of yarn, which was the Leading Men Fiber Arts handspun in a BFL. I'm not sure who the fiber is by, but anyway, so it started with this cream and then went into an icy blue and then a darker blue and then a navy blue and then kind of this bluish black. And I ordered some yarn. This hadn't come last week, but I ordered some Loft by Brooklyn Tweed in their cast iron colorway. So there's the From the Mainland section. Surprise. That's all I got. And oh no, it's not all I got. So this is the cast iron. It is a very, very dark gray. It's a little heathered, and it was perfect. It's a little rustic, which is what I was looking for. And here, you can kind of see where the transition is. That's a place that's more obvious. There's some that are a little less obvious. for some reason the yarn got really, more gray, lighter gray at the end. But like some of them are kind of hard transitions. I don't know, you can't really see it that much without being blocked. But like that's kind of a hard transition. So I did alternate. I did like a couple rows in the cast iron and then I think a row and a half, because that's all I had left of the hand spun, and then went back to the cast iron. But I think it actually goes quite well. In person, it's not as bad. And so I'm really enjoying knitting on this. I did extend it a little bit because I then had a whole skein of yarn. And so I just kept going with the pattern and in just this pattern. So there's different sections. You start with the section with these like lines of eyelets, and then there's a little bit of stockinette, and then there's some more spread out eyelets, and then closer together eyelets. So I just continued closer together, eyelets. And then now I'm on the border, so there's a couple rows of garter stitch, which I've done. I don't know if you can see that, kind of. And now I'm ready for the picot bind off. So that is going to take forever because there are 1.5 million stitches on this thing. Okay, not really, but there are a lot. I don't know how many there are, but it's quite bunched up in places. So I'm really excited about this shawl. It's going to be quite fan-like. It is pretty big. If you take the middle and the edge, it won't quite be my wingspan, but that's okay. It'll be a pretty good size. So it's pretty deep. And I love the gradient in it. I feel like it went with this so well. Ooh, there's a good shot. There you can kind of see the color transitions. So since I've gotten the cast iron, I've picked it back up and continued, and I'm really enjoying it. So that will hopefully be done this week. Actually, hopefully today. We'll see how it goes with the umpteen stitches of bind off, the picot bind off. So that's going to take a while, but that's what I have choir rehearsal for, right? Yeah, oh, I went to choir rehearsal this week and I forgot my knitting. Oh my gosh, it was torturous. And we did a little bit of singing, but mostly because our director was gone for a couple weeks. He had gone to Macau for some choral concert-y thingies over there, and so he was telling us lots of stories, and I was sitting there without my knitting, and I was like, ah! But I realized that earlier in the day when I had gotten out for lunch, for my lunch break, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot my knitting. Because I thought one project was in the bag and I had put other stuff on top of it, and then so I didn't put a second project in there because I thought, oh, that's ridiculous, I don't need 2 projects. And then I realized I just forgot both of them, and it was a little torturous. But I survived, obviously, because I'm here, and I'll not forget it again. That's for sure. So that's one thing. The other thing is, oh, the cat's getting. He's like, ooh, what's going on? What's going on in there? He can't get in. Haha. The next thing is the Elowen Shawl by Judy Marples. And this is out of O-Loop's Superwash Sport in You Can Learn a Lot from the Flowers, especially in the month of June, which is this main color. And then some natural sport weight that I found. So, ta-da! I have finished the stockinette portion, ding ding, and started the, it's not really color work because you just alternate rows, the slip stitch patterning portion. And the rows take a really long time, but it's turning out really well. I did actually knit, I think up until like here, and then decide I didn't like how far away the pattern was from the center. So I went back and I adjusted it by not increasing on the center stitch one time and increasing on the right and wrong side over here. So in essence, like shifting the stitches, like one stitch toward the, I guess one stitch toward the center here. And that worked. So now I can get an extra of the pattern stitch on this end, and then it ends up being closer to the center stitch here, and I like that much better. There's actually, I don't think, any border here. I mean, there's the edging, but there's no space between the edging and the whatchamacallit, pattern stitch. Here there is a little space, but it's not as bad, and I like that a lot better. I'm trying to make it smaller, but we'll see. I looked at other ones on Ravelry, and there's just this huge gap, and it just looked weird to me, and I thought, you know, it should just kind of continue. So we'll see. Because of the way the increases are done here, they're different than on the edge, so it works out a little differently how it works. But anyway, so I'm enjoying that, and that's for the Harry Potter knit along by O Loops. So that will be done by the end of the month. Ta-da! I guess this is kind of an announcement. I have some use it or lose it vacation time at work, because that's how our vacation time works. You get a certain number of weeks, and you either use it or you lose it by the end of the year. So this time of year, there's a lot of people taking vacation because they haven't used it and they don't want to lose it. So I was looking at my vacation time, and I thought I had like a day and a half left or something. And it turns out I had 4.5 days, actually 4 and most of a 5th day left. So I get a whole week off. I was like, sweet. So I worked it out with my coworkers, and I'm kind of, well, the boss of the whole office is taking he's taking a whole lot of vacation. He's kind of in and out anyway. So he's taking, because he has a lot of meetings and such. So he's taking his, but coming in for meetings and stuff like that. And then I'm taking mine for a week, then another coworker's taking his for a week, and then another coworker's taking his for a week. So between all of us, actually no, someone else took theirs last week. So we're just kind of alternating weeks so that there's always someone in the office and it all works out. But I have a lot of time this week. And so I plan on doing a lot of knitting. I plan on doing a lot of errands and appointments and things like that I don't always have time for when I have work. So that'll be really nice. But I took a picture on for Instagram yesterday of my huge pile of works in progress. I mean, it's insane. And one of my goals is to kind of get that down to a more manageable level. And a lot of them are there or they're kind of in hibernation because they're at a point where I have to sit down and concentrate. And I don't always have that kind of time. You know, it's either at the end of the day when I really don't want to pay attention, or, you know, during lunch or during a meeting when it's kind of weird to have a pattern out and like, hold on guys, like I have something to say, but I got to figure out what I'm doing. You know, that's just not right. So I hope to finish things this week. So with that, I will get to the first finished object. I have a finished object. So the first finished object is my Kontio socks by Tiina out of Sophie's Toes Merino sock in the midnight sky. I can't read it from here. It's covered by something. Anyway, hold on, I'm taking the clamps off here. So these are the socks. Ta-da! And they are done. I finished them last night and blocked them. I soaked them and then left them to block overnight. So they're mostly dry, which is good because I have to give them to the person who they're for on Tuesday. And I was really determined to get these done last night. I was like, I am not going to bed until these are done because I want them to be done. I want them to be blocked and dry and wrapped and everything by Tuesday. So they'll be dry by the end of today, and then, yeah, they're just a little damp in the toes. But yeah, I'm really happy with how those turned out. And one is taller than the other. I know. I tried to did get some of these like binder clippy things and clip them up so that they ended up the same length, which actually worked quite well. They're a little funky on the edges because of where I clipped it, but I think that's okay. Once you wear them and stuff, they'll be fine. And once he wears them, I'm not wearing them. So I'm really happy with how those turned out. Ta-da. And it's a lot of twisted ribbing. I didn't exactly I started out doing the pattern as I was supposed to, and then I stopped looking at the pattern and kind of did it wrong, which is probably why they're different lengths. Because I may have done it correctly on one and not correctly on the other. I don't really remember. But anyway, they end at the same point in the pattern, and so they'll look even if they're not actually even. So, oh well, I liked it. It's a simple pattern, it was easy to do, and I just didn't read it correctly, / didn't keep looking at it. That was really it. So those are done, and yeah, should be good to go. So let's see, the things I got from the mainland were, oh, I forgot to mention this, I ran out of this yarn. I would have had enough for one cuff, but not another one, so I found a matching gray in my stash that worked quite well. And I have plans for it for another project, but I don't need the entire skein, so I just used some of it for this. So that's, if you're wondering, why does the top look different? It's because when I knit large man socks, there's never enough yarn. I need to just have a collection of solid colored kind of mini skeins, but they're bigger than mini skeins. I didn't actually weigh the skein, so I'm going to have to weigh it and see how much I used for those 2 cups and make a collection for dude socks, because I always run out whenever I'm like, sometimes my husband's I can do, but if you want to make them tall, you know, because you don't want to just make, the guys don't like short socks. Most of them don't. They like tall socks. So I always seem to run out. I have enough for one cuff and not the other, so I just end up doing contrasting cuffs a lot on guy socks. So from the mainland, I got the Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and I also, as I mentioned last week, I was doing the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted hashtag on Instagram, and I had requested some yarns from my kind of wish list of knitting, and I forget what those were, but anyway, one of them was Plucky, the Plucky Knitter, and I was lucky enough to find someone who would gift me a skein, and she asked what colors I like, and I said I kind of steer away from pinks and oranges and reds, just because I don't wear them very often. And she gifted me this. I don't know if the color is going to come out, but it is absolutely perfectly spot on my colors. It's like this, it's like almost like a sea foam over dyed with a gray, and it is stunning. Oh my gosh. It's like she knew me and she's like, oh yeah, these are her colors. It's amazing. And I'm so happy with this. So this is the 100% superwash merino fingering in iced aquamarine. And I am so happy with that. So that's going to be a gorgeous shawl of some sort. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but there it is, the Plucky Knitter. And I'm super happy with that. I ended up mailing out 3 packages for other people's wishes, and I think I'm going to have 3 packages sent to me, so it worked out well. But I really like this, just like the idea of granting someone's yarn wish and then get your yarn wish granted is just like, I love this community and how like nice and generous they are. So this was a win for me. I'm very pleased with that. And yeah, so those are the things from the mainland. Flora and Fauna. Let's get into sizing socks. So a lot of people have asked me how I size socks for other people. And what I do is I ask them what their shoe size is, because this is something that they know off the top of their head. They know what shoe size they wear. And it would be ideal actually to get the length and circumference of someone's foot, to measure it like from the heel to probably the big toe. You don't want to go, sometimes the middle toe is longer, but you really want to just go big toe to heel. That would be ideal. But, you know, people don't always have a measuring tape or a ruler and can measure their foot. So it's okay. I just asked for their shoe size. There's a lot of charts online that will convert shoe size to inches. And so I just use one of those. I have one somewhere like printed out and I just never remember where it is. So I just always just Google it and like shoe size to inches. Super simple to look up. Just do that. The other ideal thing would be get the circumference of someone's foot, which I do sometimes if I'm there and I'm like, hey, let me just measure your foot. But they don't know I'm getting their sock. Like, if they don't know they're getting socks, it's kind of awkward to be like, hey, wow, can I measure your foot randomly? It's kind of weird. Sometimes I just gauge it against my husband's foot. If I like see their shoe and see my husband's shoe like next to each other, then I'm like, oh, okay, because I know how long and like round my husband's feet are. And I mean, he's got a pretty normal size dude feet. And so I just kind of gauge it off that. I'm like, okay, they look a little longer, a little wider, you know, stuff like that. And so that's kind of it. If I know that they have super wide feet, or if they know they're getting socks, I say, what's your shoe size, and how, you know, do you wear wide? Do you wear narrow? Do you consider your, you know, do you like tighter socks? Do you like looser socks? And you can kind of gauge from there. So that's how I get the measurements. The next thing, mostly for guy socks, I use 72 stitches. That's kind of the standard. I don't really measure gauge. I know it's kind of terrible. For women's socks, I tend to do 64. Sometimes I do 68 if I feel like they have larger feet. Like my mom has bigger feet than I do, just like longer and wider. And so I think I do hers like 68. And it's always easy to add or take out stitches on the bottom of the foot. So if you start the sock and you don't want to rip it out, and I do toe up. I think you all know this by now. But I knit, so I knit the toe, and then if I feel like they're going to be too wide, I just take in a couple stitches on the bottom of the foot, and no one knows. Or on the edge, or somewhere in the pattern if it works, or something like that. Or if I feel like they're going to be too small, then I just add them on the bottom of the foot. Or if it's, you know, it's still kind of, you know, part of the toe, I can just kind of add them on the edges, and no one knows. No one's gonna look that close. I hope not, at least. And so that's the general thing of how I size socks for other people. The way you should do it probably is measure gauge, and, you know, like, okay, if your measurement's this, like what I did with my aunt's socks, I asked her to measure this. She knows she's getting socks, and I know she has wide feet. So I said, measure the circumference of your feet. And they were a lot bigger than I thought. So I actually did the calculation of like, okay, if I'm getting this many stitches to the inch and I need it to be this many inches, how many stitches do I need? And it was a lot more than I had. So then I had to rip back the whole thing because I didn't like most of the foot. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So I ripped them out, and I've started knitting them. I put them down just because some other things came up. But those should be getting picked back up soon to get finished. So then I actually did the calculation and figured out how many stitches I needed, which was good because otherwise they would not have fit her, and that would not have been good because then I would have had to rip them out later and reknit them. I generally, with other people, try to give more on the side of loose rather than tight socks, just because it's easier in case they put them in the dryer, which often happens. Then they'll shrink a little bit. And I put my socks in the dryer a little bit sometimes when I forget or can't find them in the washer. Then they end up in the dryer. And I don't notice that much of a difference, but I know some people do. So I think it just kind of depends on the yarn you used. And I mean, obviously, if it's a superwash or not superwash, it's going to felt. But if it is a superwash, they tend to be okay. This is kind of off topic, but the way I wash my socks, I used to hand wash all of them, and then it just got ridiculous because then I'd be like doing round and round and round after of socks of hand washing, and it just got ridiculous after a while. And so what I do is I turn them inside out and I put them in the washer with everything else, and I color, you know, like colors like you do laundry, and then I hang them to dry. So I just pull them out as I'm pulling things out of the washer to put in the dryer. And that's how I wash my socks. Anyway, slight tangent. But I guess that's generally how I knit socks for other people. I either guess or ask them their shoe size. It's really how it goes. So I hope that helps. If you have any more questions on that topic, please get in contact with me, and I would be happy to answer subsequent questions on that topic because it's something that I do a lot, And I know not a lot of other people do it, or at least they don't do it for people that they don't have ready access to, like their husband or their children, or, you know, one of their friends. They're like, hey, come here, let me stick this sock on your foot. You know, it can be a little harder when it's someone that you're, you know, you don't have ready access to, their feet. I know it sounds kind of weird, but you're knitters, you get it. You can be like, hey, can I borrow your feet? For guy socks, I use my husband's feet. I'm like, hey, honey, can I just, you know, stick this sock over your foot and see if it fits? And he generally obliges. He's like, yeah, okay, here's my foot. You know, I just stick the sock on. He's like, yeah, that'll work, you know, because so-and-so's feet are, you know, bigger or smaller than yours and whatever. And yeah. And then with people who are kind of similar to me, I try them on my own foot and see. Or I borrow a friend and be like, hey, you have feet similar to this other person. Can I just stick this on your foot? And yeah, they all know I'm kind of a crazy knitter person, so they're okay with it. Okay, well, enough rambling about that. I hope that answers your questions. I know there were some other questions that came in on the Ask or Got Any Questions for Me thread, which I will answer on another episode. I thought I'd keep like to one topic per episode. But I love the questions, so please keep them coming. That's been really helpful. And in knowing what you guys want me to talk about. I mean, I could talk about a lot of things, but, you know, I don't know if it's exactly what you want to know. So, that's it for From My Flora and Fauna. From my Hale, I wanted to share a couple non-knitting related things that I've been doing this week. And one of them is that I finished reading one of my Doctor Who books. It's called Nuclear Time. It's by Oli Smith. And it's with the 11th Doctor and Amy and Rory. And I really enjoyed it. You know, they kind of feel like an episode of Doctor Who. They just take me, you know, a couple weeks to read it. And this one felt like larger print, or I don't know if it was like larger print or more spacing or something than the other books I've been reading, but it was really quick. All of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm halfway through. And then 2 days later, I'm like, oh, I'm done. So that was really cool. So I really enjoyed this one. And the next one I'm going to read is called The Glamour Chase. And it's by Gary Russell, also with 11 Amy and Rory. So I'm excited about that. I think I have one more with 11 Amy and Rory. And then I have a ton of these Doctor Who books of different sorts. So I've just kind of been working my way through them. They're great train reading. And yeah, they make the train ride go super quick. I mean, it's not a very long commute. But all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is my stop. Maybe I should get off. Luckily, I'm at the end of the line, so it works out well. So that's what I'm going to read next. And the other thing we've been doing recently is I finally got the volume 4 of Batman the Animated Series. If I can get this without glare. Haha. So we've been watching our way through this. I think we've made it through 2 discs. And there's a lot of Batgirl, which I'm really excited about. It's more about like Bat family. So you have Batman, a new Robin, and then the old Robin has graduated to Nightwing, who is, I've dubbed Mullet Man because he has a mullet in this, which I just think is hilarious. So he's Mullet Man now in my book. But I'm really enjoying this. My husband's really enjoying this. And yeah. So we'd watched through volume 1 through 3. We didn't have 4. So it'd kind of been on my Amazon list for a while. What I tend to do with Amazon is put a bunch of things in my cart and then wait till I have, you know, $35 or more so I get free shipping, and then buy things so that I don't have to pay for shipping. Yep, I'm that person. But, you know, why not? If you have free shipping, why go for it? Especially if it's not something I need right away, like this, because we still had volumes 1 through 3 to get through. So I'm really enjoying Batgirl here. This is this version of Batgirl. So it's been really fun. I thought it might be fun to have, to make her costume. But I think I'd have to redo, I think she has a gray suit in this one. It looks black here, so maybe it's just the lighting, because sometimes it looks gray. But Batman's is definitely gray. So we may have to have a couple versions of the Batgirl costume. We'll see. The first one was a lot of effort, so we might just, you know, stick with that. So that's really what I've been up to this week. And yeah, Ta-da! This week I have vacation, which will be awesome. We're headed to IKEA tomorrow to deliver something for a friend and get some other IKEA things and some Swedish meatballs, because what else do you do while you're at IKEA? And besides wander around, sit on random furniture, and eat Swedish meatballs, because that's what IKEA is for. So that'll be fun, and also the cat gets to go to the vet. Yeah, I've been waiting to do that, and then finally I was like, you know what? I have a day off, my husband has a day off, cat is going to the vet, and then we're going to IKEA. So we're going to make him completely angry and then leave him at home all day. It'll be great when we get home from IKEA. So that, oh, and Star Wars is coming out this week. Oh yeah, so we're planning on going to see that. My husband and a friend of ours have made full-on Jedi costumes, so they will be wearing those. I will post some pictures to Instagram when that happens. And these are kind of our besties. And so my husband and the husband of that couple made the costumes, and then me and the wife of that couple are going to make Jedi costumes at a later date. But we got theirs finished, so we'll make those, and hopefully maybe in time for the next movie we'll have ours. So it'll be fun. So that's Thursday. What else are we doing this week? Not a whole lot. A lot of like cleaning, organizing, knitting, sleeping, reading, vacation stuff. And spending some time with some friends, hopefully going downtown Chicago to the Chris Kindle Market. That's a plan. I also need to, I don't know if I've shared this, but my dad was born in the Czech Republic, which is, I'm pretty sure I've shared this. And so he became a U.S. citizen a week after I was born, which means that I was born to a Czech parent, which now means that I can get a Czech citizenship. The laws changed like a few years ago, and so I need to go to the Czech consulate downtown Chicago, which I just haven't had time for, so I'm hoping to get that done this week, and fill out a bunch of paperwork, which is all in Czech, which is very fun because I don't read Czech. So they get annoyed with me, and then they just tell me where to sign things, and we're going to see how this goes. Last time I went, I was missing a bunch of papers, which I now have, so hopefully we'll be able to get things sorted out, and I will get this Czech citizenship, which would be really awesome. So, yay! So that's my week. I hope you all are doing well. Please continue to post comments and questions in the Ravelry group, and I look forward to seeing you next week, hopefully with a lot of finished knitting. All right, bye!